It's time for the crossover with Don Taylor and Rick Dhaliwal, the hosts of Donnie and Dhali, which you can check out Monday to Friday,
Well, why did
10 to noon on Check TV.
Why did the extra day make me miss Rick Dhaliwal?
I don't know, you tell me.
Once
You
a week
should.
is too much. Once every 8 days, that's the sweet spot, Rick.
We were texting, though.
That's true.
When you were on the road.
Well, we're always talking.
Yeah.
Bud. I'm always interrupting your walks.
Yeah.
It's easier to handle somebody in text form. Though. There's a little bit of distance, a little bit of a buffer, which I think for Drance certainly helps when I'm dealing with Drance. Like to have that buffer in place. How's it going, fellas?
Good. Excellent. Yes. Rick and I just had a big fight during the show.
I was going to say. Now, but that's
everybody
sometimes
says
you need
it's
to bring
okay.
that edge, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you need to bring that
There
edge
you
to
go.
show prep.
What was the fight about?
Yeah.
What was the fight about, gentlemen?
We didn't really have a fight, Thomas. I was
Right.
making a comparison to Miller and Pedersen, right?
Oh, got it.
It was a
Thomas.
joke.
Okay.
2/2.
Yeah.
So that just flew over your head, eh, Thomas?
did, yeah.
Just right
Sorry.
over. Yeah.
I
not
even
giving
made
him
the
enough credit. Of course he got it.
follow-up joke about practicing with an edge, and you still didn't.
No,
get it.
I know. I was
Yeah.
honestly hoping that they'd fought. Like one of them was Team Pedersen, one of them was Team Miller. I know that.
Well, we all know who that.
Yeah,
like, that's
I know
not
that
hard to slot
Donnie
in.
would have been
Yeah.
Team Miller.
Yeah.
Yeah. We
So
know
what,
that.
where you guys land on this? Biggest deal ever, or nothing at all? Miller and Petey mixing it up in practice.
Well, our poll question, our Delaney's OK Taryn Langley inbox poll question, if I can say that on
Well,
this
you just
show.
did.
I just
650,
did.
650, Dunbar Lumber text line.
Yeah. Sorry. I don't want to get Dunbar Lumber upset with me.
We're gonna give you the
No,
Dunbar
you don't
Lumber
want to
if
get
you
on
keep
Ken
plugging your
Priestley's bad
sponsors.
side, all right?
Oh, I mean, listen, Ken Priestley's team beat our Port Moody team last year in the under 18 A1 playoffs, but that's another story. Anyway, overwhelmingly in favor of not a big deal, which I don't find surprising because we've seen this sort of thing before. I think most people think that it's, and I'm in this category, that it's a good thing. In that there is, I know it's early in the season, but there's a monotony to the season, and it's something that might, I don't know if this is what JT Miller had in mind, that it just wakes people up a bit. I don't think it's a bad thing, and you know what, it's just a bit surprising in that it's early and they've won 3 straight games.
Yeah,
but,
that's it.
But every once in a while, waking people up, whether it's on purpose or not, I don't think it's a bad thing.
Okay, and last year, did we not go through this with Garland
Yep.
and Joshua?
Yep.
Yeah. So, and didn't we see a fight at practice in Buffalo a couple of weeks ago?
Yep.
I think we did. What surprises me is, it's 3 straight wins. You're feeling good. Usually this happens when you lose a ton of games. Remember when St. Louis, they had the fight after the Canucks beat them in St. Louis, and that was the year they won the Cup, and they fired the coach and the whole 9 yards. You usually see it during adversity, but this was 2 high-profile guys. 2 totally different personalities. Miller's got the fire in the belly. Pedersen's laid back. Maybe it gets him going. You never know, right? But rumors of these guys having friction, it's been out there for years. You'd have to live under a rock and not cover this team and not know and hear about the friction of these 2 guys in the last 5, 6, 7 years, right? So, but that's always been out there. I mean, we hear it all the time, but maybe it gets him going. Maybe it gets Pedersen going.
I think it's
Or
one of
maybe
those.
he gets worse.
He's been playing better. I think the truth is that while it's not a big deal by any means, if Matthews and Marner were slashing each other in practice, that would be, I think, wall to wall. You might get your own special on it on some of the Canadian sports networks, right? If this happened, if it was McDavid and Draisaitl going at it, the whole hockey world would talk about it. So it's not nothing. These things get talked about. But that doesn't mean that it's something either. It lives in that nebulous space between nothing and something.
It's worth noting, but it doesn't have to be like a cause for concern.
No,
of course we're all going to acknowledge that it happened, and we're all going to weigh in on it. But again, I think the Garland Joshua point is a really good one, and I don't even beyond the specifics of the players involved. Like, these are hyper competitive guys.
Yeah,
even Elias
in a
Pettersson,
hyper competitive environment.
Even Elias Pettersson, who, as you say, much more laid back publicly, right, than JT Miller.
Yeah,
I mean, we've seen his competitiveness throughout his career. Like, these are proud guys going at it. moments like this are going to happen. And, again, the Garland Joshua example, like sometimes it's great. Sometimes it helps them get past something, find an understanding, and play even better out there. So,
not to mention there's been a talking point.
I think it's going to
Sorry, go ahead.
But I think it's going to get more oxygen. Sorry, Thomas, but it's going to get more oxygen depending on what happens against Pittsburgh on Saturday. If Elias Pettersson breaks through, comes up with 3 goals, and he comes up with a Ryan Gull type performance, 3 goals and 1 assist, then it's like, hey, can you guys fight at every practice? This seemed to work. So we'll see what happens on Saturday. Then we'll still be talking about it, which is good for a talk show or shows.
Well, maybe
Thomas, go ahead, Jamie.
I was going to say maybe Pettersson will score and the crowd will chant JT Miller thanking him for getting Pettersson going.
Yeah.
Yes.
No kidding.
Yeah.
No kidding. But we got to remember these are public figures on the most important sports team in this province by a country mile, and you don't think. Hey, and the Canucks are lucky because I'll tell you something else. There's no video. There's no video component to this thing that happened at practice. Because can you imagine? Because Farhan Lalji came on our show today and he said allegedly Miller called him a baby at the end. And it got quite heated, more than, some people are. I talked to some media guys that were there and saw it yesterday. And, yeah, it wasn't just physical. There was some yapping back and forth. These guys are public figures. I mean, for this, this is a Canadian market. And as Don said earlier, if this happened in Columbus or Carolina or Florida, I mean, it would not be as big as it is in Vancouver. Let's be honest about that.
If you go back, though, through Rick Tocchet transcripts over the last week to 10 days when he's been asked about Pettersson, like wanting to see, harder practices from number 40 has been something that the Canucks head coach has talked about. So, to some extent, right, the fact that there was a battle drill or a race for the puck that got heated, I wasn't at practice to be clear, that sort of sparked this reaction. I mean, with number 40 in the middle, that might be something the organization welcomes, frankly.
I bet it is. And because, I'd imagine during the tiff, the scuffle, Pettersson would have been moving his feet, which if you also look back at those Rick Tocchet transcripts is something, he brought it up yesterday, Thomas.
Yeah.
Again, he wants to see this star player making all this money a season. He wants to see him do something that, a lot of minor hockey players have trouble with. He wants them to see him move his feet. And every time I hear that clip, I'm like, behind closed doors, Rick Tocchet must be looking at that video and saying, my gosh, it's move your feet, man. Because that's what when he's had success, he moves his feet. He shoots the puck more. He's way more confident out there. And that's what I just can't help. Whenever I hear that, I'm like, man, it must just be driving them nuts right now.
So where did these guys come from? Tocchet, Rutherford, Alvin. They came from Pittsburgh, who has got a superstar who's the first on the ice, last off the ice, sets the template, the tempo for practice, is an absolute pro on and off the ice, never stops getting better. These guys just want their superstar to act as a hockey player like Sidney Crosby. I mean, think about it. I mean, when you hear Tocchet, Rutherford, and Alvin talk about Crosby, there's a huge smile on their face. They love talking about the guy. He's going to be in town in a couple of days, and you're going to see the smiles. Again, they're going to be asked about Crosby. That's all they want, is their superstar in this city to do what the superstar in Pittsburgh does, and who's an absolute great pro on and off the ice and never stops getting better.
Well, and telling that Rick Tocchet dropped the Sidney Crosby comparison for Quinn Hughes this week on the road trip,
there you
right?
Go.
And not saying that's what he's aspiring to, saying I'm seeing the same things.
Type of player.
The same type of player, the same type of mentality that Quinn Hughes or that Sidney Crosby has. I mean, that, as you say, Rick, that's the highest praise, really, that Rick Tocchet can give to a player.
That's it.
Yeah,
and I think that's what he wants to see from Pettersson.
How good they are, how much they've accomplished. They're always trying to get better. And that was a great clip that Tocchet, a great answer that Tocchet gave when talking about Quinn Hughes. Anybody I know that's been around the Penguins, and Thomas, you know this, and they watch the work ethic regarding Sidney Crosby on the ice, but especially off the ice. Apparently his workouts are hard to watch. They're just exhausting, and it and I'm not saying that Elias Pettersson doesn't work hard off the ice or anything like that, but there's a drive there that is second to none, And I think they just, at this point, expect it from anybody, but especially a star. Or they'd like to see an effort in that direction, or at the very least.
Guys, did you? I don't know if you saw the Pettersson interview yesterday. Visually on yeah. He defeated. He looks defeated. Like Donnie said it. He looks defeated. You want to see him smile and laugh. And that's a big part of being a successful pro athlete, is loving what you do. But I mean, looking at that interview, it just looked like he would rather be in 40 different places than do that interview with Farhan yesterday. Somebody's got to put the fun.
In fairness, doing media, he was not dissimilar to me. I took a run at him just talking about the struggles on the road trip, and he was really good talking about like Niels Höglander, pretty good talking about sort of the line. But when it came to like, how do you feel about where your game's at? I don't think he has a ton of appetite to discuss that in the media right now. I think he probably feels like it'll be dissected unfairly or something like that because, I mean,
well, and I will say,
pulling teeth would be would be putting it kindly.
You want to see him smile. I agree with you, Rick. You'd love to see him smiling and having fun, but I think there's a bit of a catch-22 there too when he's in front of the camera, right? Like you're making 11.6, you have 0 goals in 6 games. If you're yucking it up with reporters, I think a lot of people are going to turn around and say, hey, shouldn't he be taking this more seriously? Shouldn't he be, you know what I mean? It would be easy to criticize him almost being too positive in that situation as well. He's in a tough spot, right? I do find it interesting.
Where's the performative anger?
Yeah, exactly, right?
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. Maybe not yucking it up, but maybe some anger, some emotion. This is unfair, but his personality, he's stoic. That's just the way he is. And I forget who was saying this earlier in the week that, sometimes when somebody approaches interviews like that, we read into it as people who have followed hockey all their lives. Oh, he doesn't care. I think he cares a whole lot, but his personality comes across to us anyway like, well, this guy he seems emotionless. That doesn't mean he doesn't care. I think he does. People would love to see him, yuck it up or be angry or something. This is just the way he is. You hope there's a fire inside, though.
The other thing I find interesting about this, and Rick, as you said, three-game winning streak for the Canucks, but even, and I admit, starting from a very, very low point, but like pretty clear progress, I thought, from Elias Pettersson on the final 3 games of that road trip. It's not as if, he played a real stinker that cost him a game in Chicago, and now you're kind of seeing this reaction and him being down and all of that. If anything, I thought it set up pretty well for him to return home and try to build on some of that momentum. And, people will text in 650 to the Dunbar Lumber text line and, accuse me of lowering the bar and all that. But I really did think his game was starting to trend in the right direction. It didn't seem like the time that, teammates or coaches would need to intervene or anything like that necessarily.
But look at his comment yesterday. It's easy to look at my stats and say I stink.
Yeah.
How do you get $11.6 million? You get a ton of stats.
Yep.
So now when you get to 11.6, people want to see the stats. People want to see the goals, assists, and points. And that's when they're not coming as fast as everybody wants them to come. And that's the bottom line right now with them. It's production.
All
He's
right.
in a Canadian market.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Go ahead.
He can do a lot of the other things, but ultimately he needs to put up a ton of points. You're 100% right on that, Rick. Okay, moving on from Elias Pettersson. Frank Saravalli was on our show, our station on Halford and Bruff earlier today, talking about Thatcher Demko's potential return. Frank saying, doesn't sound like anything is close. We've seen him on the ice occasionally here, but not really repeatedly in front of the media on the ice. Rick, what are you hearing about the latest on Thatcher Demko right now?
Okay, so 2 weeks ago I started getting texts and calls that Demko might be out till December, and I didn't kind of believe them, and I kind of said, okay, I was always told either October, right? October was first, it was late October, and then, okay, we're going to seep into November. But boy, when I started hearing December, I thought, well, what's going on here? But I do want to say this week I looked into this, and the December thing was shot down. I was told that there is progress being made with Thatcher. They're moving in a good direction. It's just a massive unknown. The Canucks don't know. Demko doesn't know. Nobody knows. No one's got a timeline. No one's got a date. And essentially everyone is guessing because the one thing he's not doing is turning the corner and ramping it up. Whenever you're in an injury situation, there's always a point when you're going to ramp it up and turn the corner. He's not there. That's the way it was described to me, is he's not turning the corner to ramp it up. And when you can't ramp it up, you're not close. So, but I was told this week that there is progress being made, but the progress, as I said in August, when they started, calling Lankinen, the progress is very slow, and it has been slow for months and weeks. And I think we're all just going to have to sit back and patiently wait for this. And people can say a week or two or a month or two. Nobody knows, and you're just going to have – I call it week to week. And I don't know why the Canucks don't say it's week to week, because essentially that's what it is. Every week brings a new week, and, either you're going to be closer this week or you're not. But I can report I heard there was progress being made, and they are moving in a good direction, but it's just not happening as quick as everybody wants. That's it.
Guys, can I just say something here, too? And, we've taken our shots at the Canucks and Elias Pettersson, and the Canucks' slow start. And, of course, they won their last 3 games, and now they're on pace. I know it's very early for the 109 points that they got last season in real impressive fashion. Demko's not there. Dakota Joshua is not there. And we know how great that line was with Bluger and Garland. And Elias Pettersson hasn't been Elias Pettersson so far. Can you imagine they get those 2 players back and Pettersson gets his game back on track? I'm not talking Stanley Cup parade here or Stanley Cup riot or anything like that. But I mean, it's pretty impressive where they're at right now when you think about it, and not everybody is there or playing up to par.
They look good. The scoring depth is held, and Lankinen's been sensational. I'm not sure. Like at the same time that we've seen a lot of good stuff, without question. I just need to see an awful lot more before I'm talking about it. I mean, on pace for 109 points. They lose one game, that pace goes down by, you know what I mean? Like, we're still at a part of the season where those swings are massive because the sample's so small. I just need to see more, and I'm really curious for these next 3 games because, I think these are decent quality opponents with the exception of Pittsburgh. The schedule isn't going to do the Canucks too many favors against the Devils and the Hurricanes. And, I'm curious to see how they stack up with teams like that because we definitely, I think, should have a sense already that, you bump into Chicago with this Canucks team, they're going to do some damage and probably look pretty good doing it.
But you know what, Thomas, like I've, followed this team, covered this team for a long time. That game in Chicago, that's the kind of game they would lose.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where you're supposed to win, end of a road trip, and they lay an egg. So it's from that
impressive.
point of view, it's impressive they win a game like that.
Yeah, and
give
the quality of the
Lankinen
goals
the ball
they
to run with here.
Yeah.
Well,
I'd give Lankinen I'd give him the ball to run with here and just start collecting these points. And you know what? They started 10-2-1 last year, the Canucks. That first 10-game segment is so important. I just keep going with Lankinen as long as he's hot. Keep going with him.
I agree with that in the short term for sure, Rick. I mean, he's playing so well right now. You have to go to him. But if there's this uncertainty around Demko, right, and all of a sudden we're potentially talking about December, like you're going to need Shilovs to start a chunk of games for you at some point, it sounds like. So I do think you have to have a plan to get Shilov's game, get him some reps, get his game to a place where you can at least feel comfortable starting him, right? Like Lankinen for these 3 games, sure, no problem. But the longer Demko's out, the more you're going to need 2 goalies at some point too.
Yeah, and you can't let Silov sit for too long.
Yeah.
But you also want to collect these points, Jamie, this 10-game segment. If they can start out like last year, boy, oh boy, then they're ahead of the game instead of playing catch-up.
Doesn't seem like there's a lot of suspense, does there? Like, Lankinen is this team's first-choice starter and will be, it seems, for the foreseeable, for the short term anyway. He's cemented himself there. Clear that Tocchet really likes him. And frankly, as good as they looked in Chicago offensively, that game could have been a lot narrower if Lankinen doesn't make some big stops as the game goes on.
Hey, by the way, you know who owes Elias Pettersson, I think, a big thank you, actually, is Jake DeBrusk for taking some heat off of him. Because normally, biggest free agent signing of the summer, 6 games without a goal, we'd all be coming on here and talking, Jake DeBrusk. Now, I think he's played just fine. He has a bunch of assists. I'm not concerned about him, but he would be front and center in the spotlight after signing that deal in the summer if it weren't for Elias Pettersson. Do you guys have any concerns about Jake DeBrusk without a goal yet as a Canuck?
Well, you mentioned the assists, and he's getting chances. I will say this about him: I do notice him out there, and I know that's maybe the least you can expect. But we've all seen players who have just disappeared through the course of an entire season. At times, I do notice him out there. There's speed there. There's effort there. I think it's just a matter of time.
He had
and the guys he's playing with aren't bad either.
I think it was Philly. He had 7 hits, Jamie, in a game.
Yep.
I mean, he's a physical, and the goals will come. Are you trying to tell me that Jake DeBrusk isn't going to score? He's going to go how much longer? He's the least of my concerns.
I said I have no concerns.
But
that's what I meant.
But Rick, Streaky has been a line attached to him throughout his NHL career in Boston to this point. And by the way, that means two things, right? That means going a 6-game spell or maybe even longer without scoring is not unusual for him historically. On the other hand, right, once he gets going, getting a whole bunch of goals from him over a short span of time is also characteristic. So, I share Jamie's lack of concern, but am I going to say that he's going to go 10 games without a goal, 12 games without a goal? Well, it wouldn't be unprecedented given sort of what he's done in his career to this point, which isn't to say that he's not still providing value, right, and speed and a variety of other good things to the Canucks lineup.
Yeah. Well, you can see him coming through with what you just talked about, the fact he's a streaky player. The other guy we'd be talking about if it wasn't for the other night is Danton Heinen.
Yeah,
no goals. And the other night he gets a couple of goals, and nobody's worried about him at this point. So I'm with you guys. I think it's a matter of time with Jake DeBrusk.
Gentlemen, before we let you go, I just want to speak. Continue the conversation about disappointments. Our producer at Lena Set on Twitter has shared a photo of Rick actually consuming his pre-crossover banana. And I just want to note how disappointed I am that banana seems normal
size. I gotta say, every time I go to the grocery store now, I'm like, have I just been missing the small bananas?
I'm like,
where are these small bananas? That's a normal banana.
No, it's small. No, it's small. This is small. You don't know the big bananas, the big tall ones. This is small.
Easy.
Donnie, I'm describing a banana. But no, this is a mid to small size banana.
You can find them at Joe's.
Yeah.
At Joe's.
No.
It's a Seinfeld reference.
That looks like a large
Haynes,
banana.
Help me.
That looks like a large banana to me.
Well, if you think that's a large banana, Thomas, stop it right now.
Thomas, get a pair of glasses. This is mid to small banana. Mid to small.
Man, I'd hate to be judged by a banana-sized queen like
we need to get a chart with like small, mid, extra large.
Yeah.
The banana sizes per Rick
Rick's
Dhaliwal.
got one of those charts at home in front of his mirror.
Okay, hey, by the way, exciting news.
This is a small banana.
You'll love this, guys. We're going to be posting the whole crossover segments on our TikTok channel now. I know you guys are big TikTok fans.
Yes.
So there you go. We're going to be TikTok stars.
Wow.
Everyone, it's very exciting.
Definitely
So you
clip
guys
that
are,
thing about the chart.
Yeah.
You're going on TikTok now?
Well,
Wow.
sports. Apparently, we have a TikTok account. I'm not a TikTok guy. I can't comment on that. It's none of my business. But the whole crossover is going to be on TikTok, so that's very exciting. All right, fellas.
Awesome.
Thank you as always. We'll chat next week.
Nice, guys.
That is
Cheers, boys.
John Taylor, Rick Dhaliwal joining us here for the crossover as they do every week. You can catch them on Donnie and Dolly Monday to Friday, 10 to noon.